The awe of ancient maps. Maps, in many ways, represent the collective knowledge, curiosity, and ambition of humanity. To look at an ancient map, especially one as magnificent as the Catalan Atlas, is to witness a work that encapsulates centuries of exploration, trade, conquest, and intellectual exchange. For modern viewers accustomed to digital satellite imagery, the sheer precision and detail of a map created in the 1300s can seem nothing short of miraculous. How could someone like Abraham Cresques, working with only rudimentary tools and information filtered through the hands of countless explorers and scholars, create a map that successfully represents vast regions of the world with such accuracy? This fascination only deepens when considering that the creation of maps predates the Renaissance, a period often credited with bringing about revolutions in science and learning. Long before the Renaissance, ancient Greek philosophers, Roman geographers, Islamic scholars, and medieval cartographers all contributed to the slow accumulation of geographical knowledge. Through their combined efforts and the integration of different cultural perspectives, cartographers were able to create ever more precise depictions of the world. The Catalan Atlas, completed in 1375, stands as a culmination of these efforts. It marks a transition point in the history of mapmaking, where traditional mapae mundi, maps that often serve religious or symbolic purposes, began to give way to more practical and empirically based representations of the world. It also highlights how mapmakers of the time were able to synthesize knowledge from various sources, both ancient and contemporary, and how the intersections of different cultures, Christian, Islamic, and Jewish, enabled the advancement of cartographic knowledge. The prehistory of world maps. Maps have been a part of human history for far longer than most people realize. The earliest known maps, found in ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt, were primarily concerned with local features, rivers, settlements, trade routes, but they nonetheless represent the first attempts to make sense of the wider world through visual representation. While these early maps were limited in scope, they laid the groundwork for more complex geographical depictions. As early as 2300 BCE, we see examples of rudimentary maps, such as the Babylonian world map, which portrayed the world as a flat disk surrounded by water. This notion of a flat, bounded Earth would persist in various forms until the Greeks introduced the idea of a spherical Earth, based on both observation and philosophical reasoning. In the ancient Greek world, maps were largely theoretical in nature. Homer, one of the earliest figures known to have described the world, provided a fantastical account of distant lands and strange peoples in his epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Though not a geographer in the strict sense, Homer's works inspired a sense of curiosity about the wider world, encouraging others to venture beyond their immediate surroundings. The first known measured and detailed description of the world came from Anaximander, a pre-Socratic philosopher who is often credited with producing the first scientific map of the world. His map, based on information gathered from explorers, merchants, and sailors, depicted the known world as a circular landmass surrounded by an ocean. While primitive by modern standards, Anaximander's map represented a significant leap forward in understanding the layout of the Earth. The Greeks and the spherical Earth. The idea that the Earth is spherical was one of the great intellectual advances of the ancient world. The philosopher Pythagoras is often credited with being one of the first to suggest this idea, based on the observation that the moon casts a curved shadow on the Earth during a lunar eclipse. Later, the philosopher Aristotle provided further evidence for the Earth's sphericity, noting that ships appear to sink as they move away from the observer and that different stars are visible from different parts of the world. The concept of a spherical Earth dramatically changed how the world was represented in maps. By the time of Eratosthenes, circa 276 to 194 BC, the Greeks were not only aware of the Earth's shape, but also its approximate size. Using a simple yet ingenious method, Eratosthenes calculated the Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy, coming within a few hundred miles of the actual figure. His calculations were based on observations of the angle of the sun's rays at different locations, and his methods formed the foundation for future geographical measurements. Strabo, another influential Greek geographer, contributed to this growing body of knowledge by compiling the works of previous geographers and adding his own observations from extensive travel. His monumental work, Geographica, served as a key reference for later mapmakers, including those who worked on the Catalan Atlas. Roman cartography and the spread of knowledge. The Romans, inheritors of Greek geographical knowledge, added their own contributions to the field of cartography. The expansion of the Roman Empire, which at its height spanned from Britain to North Africa and from Spain to the Middle East, required accurate maps for military, administrative, and commercial purposes. Roman cartographers like Pomponius Mela and Ptolemy drew upon the works of their Greek predecessors while also incorporating new information gathered through exploration and conquest. One of the most significant figures in Roman cartography was Claudius Ptolemy, whose work Geographia, circa 150 CE, introduced the concept of using latitude and longitude to pinpoint locations on the Earth. Ptolemy's maps, while containing notable errors such as underestimating the size of the Earth, were revolutionary in their use of a grid system to index geographical features. This innovation allowed for more precise navigation and would later influence the development of more accurate maps during the Renaissance. Ptolemy's system of latitude and longitude also introduced a mathematical approach to geography, which would become essential for later mapmakers. By treating the Earth as a globe and attempting to project that globe onto a flat surface, Ptolemy laid the groundwork for modern cartographic techniques, even though he struggled with the problem of distortion inherent in such projections. The Islamic Golden Age and the rediscovery of lost knowledge. Following the fall of the Roman Empire, much of the knowledge accumulated by the Greeks and Romans was preserved and expanded upon by scholars in the Islamic world. During the Islamic Golden Age, roughly 8th to 13th centuries, Muslim geographers and cartographers made significant advancements in the fields of astronomy, mathematics, and geography. One of the key figures of this period was Al-Khwarizmi, whose work on geography corrected many of Ptolemy's errors. His book, Kitab Surat al-Ard, Book of the Image of the Earth, provided new calculations of the Earth's circumference and offered a more accurate depiction of the world. Al-Khwarizmi's maps also reflected the increased knowledge of regions such as India and China, which had been largely unknown to the Greeks and Romans. Another prominent figure was Al-Idrisi, whose Map of the World, created in 1154, built upon the works of earlier geographers and incorporated new information from explorers and merchants. Al-Idrisi's map was unique in that it depicted the world upside down from how we typically view it today, with the south at the top and the north at the bottom. Despite this inversion, his map was incredibly detailed and accurate for its time, showing regions as far-flung as Europe, Africa, and Asia with remarkable precision. Al-Idrisi's work was not only a remarkable technical achievement, but also a symbol of the intellectual exchange between different cultures during the medieval period. Working at the court of the Norman King Roger II of Sicily, Al-Idrisi was able to draw upon both Islamic and Christian sources of knowledge. This synthesis of information from different traditions is one of the reasons why Al-Idrisi's map remained influential for centuries, serving as a reference for both Muslim and European cartographers well into the Renaissance. Mappe Mundi and the medieval Christian worldview. While Islamic cartographers were making strides in accuracy and empirical observation, their counterparts in medieval Europe were producing maps that reflected a very different worldview. Mappe Mundi, or Maps of the World, were popular in Europe during the Middle Ages and were often more symbolic than scientific in nature. These maps, such as the famous Hereford Mappa Mundi created around 1300, were typically centered on Jerusalem and depicted the world as a circular disc surrounded by water. Rather than serving as practical tools for navigation, Mappe Mundi were often used to convey religious or moral lessons. They placed biblical events and figures, such as the Garden of Eden, Noah's Ark, and the Tower of Babel, within a geographical framework, blending sacred history with contemporary knowledge of the world. Despite their religious focus, Mappe Mundi still contained valuable information about the layout of the known world. They often depicted trade routes, major cities, and natural landmarks, albeit in a somewhat stylized form. However, as Europe entered the age of exploration, these symbolic maps would be increasingly replaced by more empirical representations of the world, spurred on by the invention of new navigational tools. The invention of the compass and the rise of nautical charts. The invention and popularization of the magnetic compass in Europe during the 12th and 13th centuries revolutionized maritime navigation and had a profound impact on mapmaking. Prior to the compass, sailors relied on celestial navigation, using the stars and the sun to determine their course. But this method was unreliable in bad weather or unfamiliar waters. With the advent of the compass, navigators could now determine their direction regardless of weather conditions, leading to the creation of more accurate nautical charts known as portolan charts. These charts, which first appeared in the Mediterranean region in the 13th century, were designed to help sailors navigate between ports. They featured coastlines, major harbors, and the windrose lines that indicated the directions a ship could travel. Portolan charts were drawn with remarkable precision, and unlike the Mappe Mundi, they were intended to be practical tools for navigation. Their accuracy was due in part to the use of dead reckoning, a method of estimating one's position based on speed, direction, and time, and in part to the fact that they were constantly updated with new information from sailors and explorers. One of the most famous portolan charts is the Carta Pisana, created around 1275. Although it is primarily a map of the Mediterranean, the Carta Pisana demonstrates the level of detail and accuracy that was possible with the use of the compass and other navigational instruments. Portolan charts like this one laid the groundwork for the creation of more comprehensive maps, such as the Catalan Atlas. The Catalan Atlas, a masterpiece of medieval cartography. The Catalan Atlas, created in 1375 by Abraham Cresques and his son Jafuda, represents the pinnacle of medieval European cartography. Commissioned by King Peter IV of Aragon, the Catalan Atlas was intended to serve as both a practical tool for navigation and a work of art that would demonstrate the wealth of geographical knowledge available at the time. What sets the Catalan Atlas apart from earlier maps is its synthesis of information from a wide variety of sources. Drawing on both Christian and Islamic traditions, as well as the accounts of explorers such as Marco Polo, the Cresques family was able to create a map that depicted not only Europe and the Mediterranean, but also parts of Africa, Asia, and the Far East. The Catalan Atlas is notable for its use of portolan-style charts to depict the Mediterranean and the Atlantic coasts, while also incorporating information about inland regions. The map includes detailed illustrations of important cities, trade routes, and natural features, as well as figures from history and mythology, such as Kublai Khan, Musa Musa, and Alexander the Great. These illustrations serve both to educate and to entertain, making the Catalan Atlas as much a work of art as it is a geographical tool. One of the most striking features of the Catalan Atlas is its use of compass roses, each with 32 lines radiating from a central point. These lines, known as rum lines, were used by sailors to plot their courses and were an essential part of nautical navigation in the pre-modern world. The precision with which these lines were drawn on the Catalan Atlas is a testament to the skill of the Cresques family and the high level of craftsmanship involved in its creation. In addition to its practical applications, the Catalan Atlas reflects the cultural and intellectual exchange that was taking place in the Mediterranean world during the 14th century. The fact that the Cresques family, who were Jewish, were able to work on such a prestigious project for a Christian monarch speaks to the relatively fluid boundaries between religious and cultural groups in medieval Spain. Moreover, the inclusion of information from Islamic sources demonstrates the continued influence of the Islamic Golden Age on European scholarship. The Catalan Atlas is also significant because it represents the culmination of centuries of map-making tradition. It synthesizes the knowledge of ancient Greek, Roman, and Islamic geographers, while also incorporating new information from explorers and merchants. In this sense, the Catalan Atlas is both a product of its time and a bridge to the future, paving the way for the more scientific maps that would be created during the Renaissance and the Age of Exploration. Conclusion: the legacy of ancient cartography. The creation of the Catalan Atlas in 1375 marked the end of an era in which maps were primarily the work of individuals synthesizing information from texts, travelers, and earlier maps. It was the culmination of thousands of years of human exploration, intellectual curiosity, and artistic expression. Maps like the Catalan Atlas were not only practical tools for navigation, but also visual representations of the known world, rich with cultural and symbolic meaning. From the earliest Babylonian and Egyptian maps to the works of Greek philosophers and Roman geographers, the development of cartography has always been closely tied to humanity's desire to understand and control its environment. With the rise of Islamic scholarship during the Middle Ages, this desire was enriched by new methods of measurement and observation, leading to more accurate depictions of the Earth. The Catalan Atlas, standing at the intersection of Christian, Jewish, and Islamic traditions, represents the height of medieval mapmaking. It reflects the combined efforts of countless explorers, scholars, and artisans, each contributing to a more precise understanding of the world. In many ways, it is a testament to the power of maps to transform our perception of the world, from a place of mystery and danger, where here be dragons, to a connected global community where knowledge, trade, and cultural exchange could flourish. As we look back on the history of ancient maps, it is clear that they were more than just tools for navigation. They were windows into the worldview of their creators, offering insight into how different cultures understood the world and their place within it. From the symbolic Mappe Mundi of medieval Europe to the empirically based Portolan charts of the Mediterranean, each map tells a story of discovery, connection, and transformation. In the modern world, where maps are created with the click of a button and satellite imagery offers real-time views of the Earth, it can be easy to take for granted the incredible achievements of ancient cartographers. But maps like the Catalan Atlas remind us of the long and arduous journey that humanity has undertaken to chart the world. They are, in a very real sense, the product of centuries of exploration and intellectual effort, testaments to the enduring human desire to understand the world and find our place within it.